Hello, I'm Jelly Fizzies. You can just call me Jelly or whatever you really like, honestly. This is my first video in like 3 or 4 months, I think. That's partially due to the fact that, coloring digitally is not really my forte. I don't really enjoy it, and I don't feel I'm particularly good at it, so I get really self-conscious when I record it. I'm more comfortable doing inking, but I was doing that on my old cell phone with a selfie stick and a small portable tripod, so it would attach to the selfie stick and hold my phone, right? And my phone started having a lot of trouble, like I couldn't take photos with it without it shutting itself off for no reason, and of course when I would try and take videos it did the same thing. It was an old phone, so I think that's what was wrong with it. About 2 weeks ago my friend gave me his old phone, and it works like 10 times better than my current phone, and so I might actually be able to record myself inking again, but since this is already recorded, I am basically doing kind of like a channel update video over a Fate Stay Night Speedpaint. And I want to kind of talk about what I want to do with this channel, because I don't want to just do speed paints or speed draws or speed inks. I mean, drawing in general on camera is probably not going to happen, because I don't particularly enjoy drawing for an audience. It makes me very self-conscious, but coloring or inking makes me less so, so there will be more of that. I also want to do tutorials. I want to start doing drawing tutorials. I know I need to make one for hair, because a couple of people have asked me to teach them how to draw hair, and I'm really not sure how, other than to just show you guys what I do. Because I don't really even know how I figured out how to draw hair. I just kind of like eventually figured it out. I used to use a lot of reference as a teenager when I drew. I don't do that as much now because I've kind of figured out my own art style, and I'm very comfortable in it, which has its pros and cons. I mean, if there's a complicated pose, reference is good, and I don't always follow that advice, but if you're stuck on a pose, definitely look up a reference or something similar, or pose in the mirror similar, or ask a friend and take a photo. I've done that before. It's a little weird. It's weird. Just to be honest, it's weird. But if you explain it's for a drawing and people know you draw, they usually go, yeah, sure. So there is that. Let's see. I know I should do a tutorial on hands, because since I was like 14, people have been commenting on how well I draw hands. And while I don't think I'm particularly great at them, I know I'm not bad at them, and my method is pretty quick, I think. It's pretty easy to grasp. I think I've seen other people do similar things. I just don't have links to any tutorials to link anyone to for that, so I'll just, I guess, dumb it down. I know when I was like 15 or 16, I did a couple tutorials that I posted on DeviantArt, so they were picture ones, but I don't color in that same method anymore, so they're kind of not all that useful. They were in a different art program. This one you're looking at here is Photoshop, and I was using one called GIMP, which is short for GNU Image Manipulation, I think. Yeah, it's GNU Image Manipulation Program. And Photoshop's a lot more stable, so I recommend that. I've also used Fire Alpaca over the past couple months, which is on a different computer. This is actually my old laptop that this stuff is on. I don't have recording software on my new one, so everything's probably going to be recorded in Photoshop for a while, unless I download a Fire Alpaca on here as well. I think it's supposedly more similar to an art program called Paint Tool Sci for Fire Alpaca, but I've never used Paint Tool Sai, so I don't know. I know I prefer it over GIMP because it doesn't crash nearly as often as GIMP used to crash on me. I haven't used GIMP in like 5-ish years though, so I don't know if that's been fixed. But I definitely recommend Fire Alpaca or Photoshop, or finding what's comfortable for you, because I've really only used like 3 art programs in the long run. I think I've used a couple other ones occasionally, but not enough to like do good art. And that's the thing about digital art, is it's kind of, you have to figure out what program you are comfortable in, because you might be comfortable in Paint Tool Sai or Photoshop or GIMP or Fire Alpaca or what is it, Corel Painter? I think there's Corel Painter's one. And it depends on like the brushes available and the filters and everything, and yeah, it's a learning process. One thing I want to say though about art, because I remember as a teenager, a lot of people had this misconception that a better art program made you a better artist, and better art supplies make you a better artist. And honestly, as someone who used crappy art supplies for the longest time, that's not the case. Like, I've colored with Crayola pencils and had people ask me if I use Prismacolors, and it's really just how I use them, which that gives me another idea for a tutorial I should do. But the point I'm making with that is you don't need, like, Prismacolors are the most expensive pencils. It's better to, I guess, learn technique or your own style before switching up your materials too much. I learned how to color in GIMP by using various speed paints, honestly. I don't think I ever used an actual tutorial. I used speed paints, as, like this one, as my reference. Of course, I don't think I watched any where people were talking. It was primarily like anime music in the background. And, yeah. Actually, yeah, watch a lot of speed paints, especially if you're new to digital coloring. It'll give you an idea of how the process goes. They also take a long time. I know it varies by artist, but I've seen people like do stuff in 6 hours that takes me like 12 because I'm slow. Also, the size of your canvas, your image, your scan, your line art, whether you create your base basically digitally or on paper, it will affect the size and what you have to do. I prefer honestly working off of my sketches. So these are all inked sketches, and I scanned them and started coloring over them, and I lowered the opacity of each layer, and I'll talk about how I did that in a later video, because I think that would be useful, because most of the coloring tutorials I could find when I was younger especially focus on having your lines over your colors. And I hate line arting, especially if I've already inked a picture. I don't like having to digitally like retrace it. And then if my sketch is like clean enough, which is why like I'll make really messy sketches if I know I'm gonna do a line art. It's frustrating. Like, I end up doing it 3 times. I've ended up like retracing my own line work 3 times to get a line art work just right, and it takes like 3 hours, and I already don't want to be doing digital art. And yeah, it used to be easier. I don't know. I liked doing digital art more because I was still learning things, but the point that I've kind of like figured out what I'm doing, it's a lot less entertaining, and like with drawing, it gives me more time to figure out what I'm doing, I guess. I have to think about it quite a bit more. It feels less mechanical to me. I just plain don't like coloring though. And I know some people really like coloring, and I think that's awesome because I hate it. it's not that I don't like picking colors, it's like the actual act of it. It feels like it takes forever. Yeah. So, some things that I'm gonna work on doing tutorials on are like I said, hair, and then I'm gonna go on hands, and maybe a little on character design, because I struggle with that, but one thing that I see a lot of beginner artists not work on that I picked up on very quickly, but it was from a how to draw book, is you want to vary your faces a lot. Like, not like everyone is completely different and has a completely unique face, because obviously some people in real life look similar, right? But like the simplest way to do that is change eye shape or face shape, and your character will differentiate themselves. And same face syndrome is when people can't do that, so I want to do a video on some tips on how to avoid same face syndrome, and then maybe some tips on color picking. I tend to prefer doing blues, purples, and cool colors when I am picking my shading, although I've seen some people do like pinks and reds or yellows for their shading, and that looks cool too. So yeah, I'll talk about that, and maybe how to develop your own style, because one thing that made me more comfortable with my art was getting my own style, and it's not particularly apparent in this video in particular, because I did chibis. I drew chibis, so they don't look all that unique, but finding your identity as an artist, I think, is important. Yeah, I have not talked about Fate at all in this video. Awesome! Even though all these girls are from Fate. So, I'm assuming everyone watching this knows who they are, but if not, the blue one is Saber, the red one is Rin Tosaka, and the purple one is Ryder, and they are originally from Fate Stay Night, although Saber is generally from like almost everything in the franchise. She's just everywhere, and a lot of the characters actually have the same face as her, like Saber face, which is same face syndrome. Same face syndrome doesn't necessarily ruin your art, but it's still not good. There's like really no good reason for there to be same face syndrome unless you're doing something where there's like everyone's a clone. Yeah. Other videos I want to do, because I got off on a tangent. I already mentioned hands, hair, colors. I mentioned colors already. Oh boy. Body types. Different body types are also important, and face types. Noses vary a lot. I like to focus on that in my own art. Not that you can tell, again, because chibis. Fabric folds would be a good thing to focus on as well. If you have any other ideas, like suggestions or tutorials you want me to work on or would like to see, let me know. I am all ears, because eventually I'm going to run out of ideas. What I might do is alternating weeks of a speed paint like this, and then a tutorial the next week, and work that way, because then I have time to figure out my next tutorial, and then I can talk about various things over my video. I don't think most of them are going to be 16 minutes long. This is like a weirdly long one. I did three little icons, avatars, in this one. These were supposed to be buttons I was gonna print out. I haven't done that yet. Maybe I'll get to that eventually. So, yeah, thank you for watching. We're at the tail end of this video. I hope that even watching the speed paint was a little helpful in finding out what I'm gonna do. I hope anyone watching this is interested in watching me do more videos. If the fact that I'm talking is like a deal breaker and you really want music back instead, like my Alex from Gangsta video, the speed paint of her, if you prefer that type of video, I can work on picking music. It's just, I kind of prefer this. This is less stressful for me, talking over the video, even though I don't talk well. I'm very easily stressed by talking. I actually recorded several takes of this before I actually succeeded. So, yeah. Oh, I'm also going to do videos on, like, getting to know some digital programs. So, of course, I'm going to do one for Fire Alpaca and probably one for Photoshop. Although the version I have, I think, is a little old because my stepfather had it on a disc when I was, like, 16. So it's an older version. I think there's a couple newer versions out. This is just the one I use because it's the one I use. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you've watched and listened to the whole video, or even if you, like, muted me and are listening to your own music in the meantime, because for any reason, if you've made it all the way through, thank you, and I hope to see you next time.